Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the No Laying Up podcast. My name is DJ. Absolutely giddy for today's episode. We've got a new idea, new structure, new concept that I think people are going to really like to help me lead the ship, steer the ship. Of course, we got my guy Soly. Greetings. Hello.
Hi, hello. Cannot wait. I'm weirdly excited to talk about somebody else's golf game today, which I think is the biggest compliment I can pay our guest that you could possibly imagine.
And you know what? That word guest is important because this guy that we're going to be joined by today, he said something a couple weeks ago that really struck me like a lightning bolt. You know, he's often a guest on other people's podcasts, and I absolutely hoover them up. You might have heard him on Business Breakdowns. You might have
Unbelievable.
you might have heard him on all kinds of other things. And what he said was, he's like, I know this is a little self-serving and a little weird, but we don't really take the opportunity to be a guest on our own podcast very often. And just like, often we're three, four, five co-hosts all kind of talking about the same subject. Today, we're going to turn the guns on one person. Soly and I are going to just absolutely pin him down, get all of his thoughts on golf. And of course, it's the merge czar, Neil Schuster. Neil, good morning.
Greetings, gentlemen. Yes.
How's that for a fucking intro, man?
I'm excited. I'm a little nervous. Deej put together some good questions, but I wouldn't say I'm a frequent guest on other podcasts. I should probably say
Well,
yes.
I couldn't think of any.
those
I
things.
couldn't think of any others after I said business breakdowns.
Well, actually,
And,
today I'm
others
going
too.
to be a guest in a high school class to talk about life.
Scared
Talk about-
straight.
Talk about biz. Don't be like me, kids. Anyway, yes, we're just trying to think about, like, I think little tweaks to our pod can make a big difference. And like we did the house meetings last year, the round table becomes a little inefficient. You don't feel like you can unpack anything. So I'm the guinea pig. We're gonna do a golf spotlight here on my game, and you take me wherever you want to go.
Your game and your likes and a lot of other things. That it's not a shot by shot of every round you've played over the last recent
Not
weeks.
at all.
It's a lot more. Which initially when we talked about this idea, I was like, guys, that's gonna be really boring. But getting into some of the questions, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be great. This could be a lot of fun.
I think so too. And of course, we are brought to you by our friends at Titleist. So Neil, I do want to talk a little golf clubs in this episode. But first, let's level set. Just let the people know where are we at. It is January 16th as we're recording this. I would imagine it's about 30 degrees up in New York. Probably not playing a lot of golf right now. So just level set for the people. Where are we at handicap wise? And I want to know where are we at ball speed wise with the driver.
Yeah, it's currently 26 degrees here in Carroll Gardens. Sunny though, very nice day out the window here. So we are at a 1.9, down from a 3.8 at this time in 2024. So feel good about that.
Is this the lowest you've ever been?
I think 1.7 is the lowest. So we're
Wow.
right. Yeah, we're kind of right there. And ball speed, I kind of just did some stacking with Soly when we were down in Jack's last week. So my first experience with it, I'm excited to get a little bit more into it. I think looking back, like when we pull the GC quad out, I see that 171 ball speed number a lot. 178 is a number I've seen a couple times. I mean, I really, if I'm in the simulator and I really want to Durden one, want you to hit me as hard as you can, I could probably get over 180, but I start to top out at like in the high 170s. And then I think 164, 165 is kind of that second serve ball.
Right lane, one hand on the steering wheel, turn up some Dave. We're just cruising at 164.
And so to your point about the stack stuff, Soly, like if I could get the second serve into that 170 box,
forget
that
it.
would be fun. Right. And then maybe we could touch 180 when we're feeling it. That would be cool. But that's for the future. Right now, I'd say 171 is kind of the number.
Has the stack stuff, I feel like there's phases of it. And I know you've barely started. You haven't even started your actual program in it. But like for me, the initial curiosity was where I started. And I know I make this comp a lot, but kind of like Bitcoin, it took me a little bit of time for me to realize the end game of it, of oh shit, I didn't even consider this output. It seems like you've zoomed into that part of saying man, if I can get my cruising speed in the 170s, how different the game of golf all of a sudden looks.
Yeah, I think being able to swing a club as hard as you can in a safe space instead of on the driving range is probably light bulb went off on that. And honestly, just the mobility stuff, a lot of overlap with the TPI mobility program that I got. Now that we've cleared our cardio goal from last year, it's time for me to actually do some productive workouts. And so I think I'm gonna
But we
get deep in
did hit 500 miles.
We did 501. We're gonna get deep into the mobility stuff. That is essential. That's what this all comes down to. Is is my body going to feel good after golf? It should. And sometimes it doesn't, based on like where I put my, like the position I put my back in too often.
All right, a couple of tactical questions, and then we'll get into the more big picture esoteric stuff. But Neil, just let's start with what's in the bag.
Sure.
Walk us through it. What do we got right now?
So we're in the GT. We'll start up top. I got the clubs here. I have a GT3. I'll talk into the mic. It's set on A2. It's an 11 degree. I got bumped up to an 11 degree, which I feel really good about. I've seen the ball come out a much higher window has been good for me. 3-wood's GT2. And then I got put in a 7-wood.
How do you feel about that?
I love it. It's really good. It's really, really good. I hit it high. It's in talking to the Titleist fitters, it was like, hey, I really like the U-boat or the, kind of T200 3-iron, 2-iron, but they kind of made the point of like, your launch angle's too low with that. And like, you should keep that club if you're going to go play in the wind, or if you're going on a trip, to Scotland. But for golf in America, like, you are costing yourself strokes on par fives by not getting the ball up in the air. And Soly, as we discussed, par 5 scoring is a priority for me this year.
It's a big goal.
Yeah, I just really, and I don't know how to go about that goal just yet of like, well, yeah, cool. Like, I want to score better on par 5.
Don't
It's like,
make bogey.
just don't bogey par 5. Yeah, cool. All right. No, so we don't know how we're going to get there, but it is a priority. And I think the 7-wood helps that priority. Moving down the bag, we've got a T200 4-iron, which I really like.
Rocket ship.
And that kind of helps the gapping between the 7-wood and the 5-iron. And then from 5 to pitching wedge is the T150s, which I love. I have Project X 6.5, pretty heavy lumber in the shafts. I got the red Golf Pride grips. I'm really pumped though. I'm getting my Columbia blue grips back, baby. We're gonna change the grips out this year. 48. So the pitching wedge is a 44 degree, and then I've got a 48 degree wedge, which I love. It's probably my favorite club. I always just feel like I feel like I hit the 48 degree so much better than I hit my pitching wedge. Weirdly, my pitching wedge is the club in my bag that I just feel like I get clanky with. Then I go to 9-iron. It's great. It's like, but I want that club to go like 140 to 145. And I feel like I'm always like stressing to get it there, which is, I don't know. It's like, it's more like a mental thing. Like, it's no different than the 9-iron. I just almost get in my head with pitching wedge weirdly. And then I've got a 54 degree and a 58 degree. All of them are SM10s. So caddy at Liberty National, I'm going to air him out. He put my tee grind in my buddy's bag. So that is up in Fort Greene. So I've been playing the A+ grind for the last like 3 months, which has been good.
Yeah.
But I want to get my tee grind back.
Sure.
The A+ has been nice, but I think that T04 that we took down to Australia last year, I just love that 58 degree. So that's the setup. And then I have
a lot of us ended up in that 58 degree 4T.
For sure.
Like, that seems to be popular.
It sits so good on the grass. Yeah. It doesn't feel like I'm going to like middle the ball. Like some wedges with the bounce, it's like it's sitting up too much. And then I have I just call it the Max putter.
Yeah. Is it the 5.0?
Yeah. The Phantom.
Scotty 5.0.
Yeah. And I have the little, it's not like the rolling hinge, but it's just like the little quick, 45 degree one. And I feel like I've been, overall, I'm probably too hard on myself putting, but I feel like I've rolled it pretty well the last 6 months.
That's really funny you say that. I remember when we did our first putter selection with the Scotty Cameron guys. Like, what you tell me, man? Like, where you want to start? I'm like, God, Max's putter's so cool. Yeah. Can we start with that one? That one just looks awesome. All right, one more question, and then Soly, you take us wherever you want to go. Neil, one pair of shoes in your collection you would wear every day for the rest of your life.
Dude, I have to. I have them right here. I just unboxed the new Hyperflex.
Yeah.
If you're telling me I have to wear one pair of shoes, do I like the way the Premiers look a little bit better? And do I like to have a little flash on my feet? For sure. But these Hyperflexes are the most comfortable golf shoes. They're durable, and I just feel like, you're glued to the ground.
Yeah.
I mean, if Bryson's using them, they're good enough for me, brother. And then, I play a left dash golf ball. So that's probably
newish,
call out.
right?
Which is,
in May. I switched in May 1st. So
what was
the first round? First round I played with it was when I beat Ben's ass at Pinehurst. So you can find that on our YouTube channel.
Is that the reasoning for staying in it? Because Ben beat his own ass that day. I don't know if
no. The reason I'm in it is I find, and sure, this could be anecdotal, but I just find it less spinny off the tee, and I was starting to struggle with spinning the Pro V back with wedges too, like getting a lot of zip. Mm-hmm. And I feel like this golf ball has limited that like greenside spin. I don't really need that. I get a lot of spin on the ball, like through the bag. And then I went and did the driver fitting, and Lucas, my guy, was like, yeah, I think this is the right golf ball for you. He's like, I don't really want to mess with the golf ball today, but we hit a couple Pro Vs and then hit the left dash. He's like, yeah, I think you're right. So self-medicated, and I think I got the right dose. So that's cool.
And you're still getting plenty of height on the driver and ball's still getting up?
Yes, and I think that's like, he's like, oh, we could change the club. He's like, if you like this golf ball, we can just go to an 11-degree driver, So it's kind of like, which side of the spectrum do you want to change?
Yeah.
So the more we, do these fittings, the more I feel like I get like working knowledge of this stuff.
One place I want to kind of start with you. How long did the phase last, and when did you stop tucking a towel into the back of your pants when you played golf? Because that's kind of where I was. That was like one of the first images I have of you playing golf.
So that comes from a trip in 2016. PC and I were up in St. Eugene, Mission in Canada. We drove up there for a wedding. Shout out to Gary Marshall. And we played like 4 rounds of golf like before the wedding. Like over we were up there like 3 days early, and had this like pretty like bootleg casino that was actually sweet. It was like a Wild West town up in like just across the Montana border. But the golf course really cool. And I don't know. What was really hot back then was all the D-backs in football were tucking towels in, like instead of in front, they had them like hanging out the back. It's kind of like the mouthpieces now. They got like one sticking out of their helmet. They got one dangling from their face mask, and then they're like, actually using it was just flair, and I just decided like, hey, why not? So that was a very, very short thing, Soly. Vacation vibes.
We did a roast my swing on that. I think back in that 2016.
Yes, that was from exactly.
I'm trying to find, I think Graham McDowell weighed in even on that, if I remember right. Let me see. Here, I found it. Let me see if I could.
I think it was also the early days of us like selling golf towels. So
All right, yeah, here it is.
Such a big towel.
Yeah, it's just a standard golf towel.
I mean, is this like an alignment aid or any kind of like swing aid?
No, it was just like, why not?
I start there just to say, like, your journey in golf has been kind of we kind of breezed past that. You were essentially like a 10 handicap when we started this thing, maybe 8,
Yes.
maybe 9. I don't know exactly if you have a memory of like what you were, and like turning into like somebody that like threatens par a lot, doesn't break it very often, if we're being honest. But
Of course,
it's been a pretty ridiculous ascension.
Didn't even threaten par until a couple years in, until 2019. I think it was. I was a vanity 9. It was back when it was like, oh, I have a handicap, but I don't know. Like I forgot my USGA login. Coming out of college, like I didn't have a handicap through college, and then I got one.
Of course, it's 11th grade.
Yeah, but growing up, I didn't. I never got comfortable below like 78. Like breaking 80 was a big, big deal for me because I quit playing like competitive golf in 9th grade. I played Atlanta junior golf, played a little bit of Southeastern junior golf, never played, AJ, the real AJGA. I played on the high school team 9th grade. I got such a like undeserved varsity letter. I played in like one event. The golf coach, shout out to Ron Bell, RIP, legend. He was like a historically good basketball coach in Georgia, and he coached the golf team too, just like for fun. I was a good basketball player, so I think he just kind of like put me into a varsity event, just like because I went to private school. So if you didn't have a letter jacket, you had to wear a blazer. So getting that letter freshman year was a big deal. So you could hit, once you got into like winter uniform in sophomore year, your boy was in a letter jacket. That was
Billingsley.
like social cachet, some clout score stuff there. So he gave me, he let me play in this like just like barely varsity event. I think I probably shot like 87. And then he was like, no, cool. You played on the varsity. You get the letter. So I was like, okay. And then I didn't play golf. That was the last season I played. Cause then I got into football and I quit basketball. That's something going into sophomore year. And I played lacrosse for a couple of years. And I went back to basketball as a senior. But I continue to play in the summer, play golf. And again, I always say like, it's like an instrument. I learned it young. I took some really good lessons, followed TC out to the course. And, so then when I came back to it after college, I remember going to like the Columbia football, like there's an alumni outing every year, first Monday of May at Hackensack Golf Course. And, they asked some of us like seniors to play in it, and it's a scramble. And I just, I could still hit the ball, and all my buddies, none of them could play golf. They all sucked. And I was like, oh, this is great. Like, what do you mean you can't hit the golf ball? So then
It's not even
that's
moving.
and yeah, then you can come back to it. So it's a great thing to learn as a kid.
What would you attribute this rise to the most? What was the biggest lesson you learned? What was it, just reps? How did the handicap melt away if you had to distill it down?
Well, I think I've always approached it as I had some pretty good fundamentals. In other sports too, like it was always important to me in basketball that I had good shooting form. I remember as a kid, like in fourth or fifth grade, I worked under the hoop. I would shoot 500, just like,
Yeah.
beef, balance, elbow, elevation, follow through. Like, so I was always like kind of addicted to having, like, I want my form to look good. And I think that was the same thing as a kid with golf. So I always had a pretty good foundation of like, hey, left arm's got to be straight. You turn your shoulders under your chin, like all that jazz. So then when you come back to it, and I got this big, this big right miss, I had this big slice for, let's start in like 2014 when I started playing in San Francisco, and then NLU gets going. It gives you a foundation to build on. And then some of it's just like being around you guys, like Soly starting to go, like when we went to Australia, I played horrible. Like I played terrible in that first tourist sauce season. Same with, California, same with Ireland. And then you start to be like, okay, we got to make some changes here. Like you can't try to kill it every time. Like on a golf trip, 8-day golf trip, you got to like dial it back a little bit, like start to find the fairway. So I started to just think differently. I think that was some of it. And then
Playing some
if you just start,
seriously real golf courses too, kind of like teaches
yeah,
you golf.
Yeah.
Like real good architecture is going to teach you like, oh gosh, here's how I kind of need to play it and think.
I would actually argue, I don't disagree with that, but personally, and this is still the case for the last 10 years, I would say I average maybe 3 or 4 courses that I play more than once in a year, which
Yeah.
is a crazy thing to think about. It was a little bit different with Jack's Beach
Yeah.
down in Florida, but like that leads you to, I think when you have a home course that you play all the time, you can kind of, it can be a crutch. It's like, oh, well, I'm just going to hit this little slidey 4-iron off this tee, versus like every time you go play a course for the first time, you don't know, what not to do. And so you're forced to execute like hard. You're forcing yourself to execute shots you probably shouldn't, but I think that probably improves your game. Like, okay, I'm going to try to hit driver here, and peel one around the corner, and then you get up there, you're like, that was stupid. But a lot of times, more often than not, it probably works out, and you don't have any scar tissue from it. So the point I'm making there is I think as my handicap started to drop, it went from like early, like 2014, yeah, I'm a 9. It's like, you're not a fucking 9. Like you just want to say you're a single digit, to like, yo, I'm a pretty dangerous 4, or pretty dangerous 5, because I'm costing myself 2 or 3 strokes every time I play just because I don't know what I don't know on these courses.
If you go all the way back, what's your earliest golfing memory?
So I've have 2. The first one is Tron and I lived in Canada for 2 years from 1994, and we came back a week before the Olympics to Atlanta in 1996. And I was 5, 6 years old. Up in Canada, I remember doing a golf clinic at a driving range, crappy driving range. And it had I don't really remember the clinic, but I remember it had a putt-putt course, and it had a Top Gun theme. And the putt-putt course had real sand in the bunkers. And I just thought that was so cool that I was like, oh, look, this is like a real course,
Like
like,
Solly
yeah,
with TGL.
yeah, but playing off real sand on the miniature golf course. It was wild. So that's memory number 1. The actual real golf memory was we grew up in Dunwoody, Atlanta, north of Atlanta, suburb, and we were pool and tennis members at Dunwoody Country Club up until so when we came back in 96, probably until like 99 or 2000. And then my dad got the golf membership because Tron wanted to play. Like he was into it. I was a really good tennis player from like 3rd grade to 6th grade. I was like, that was my best sport. My dad still says that. He's like, if you want, that was your game. I was a lefty. I was just like good at it. But I wanted, Tron starts playing golf. I start following him to the golf course. So in 3rd grade, I remember we were still like social members or tennis members, but they would in the summer on Friday mornings at 7 a.m., they would let juniors, whether their family was a golf member or just a pool and tennis member, juniors could go off number 10. And if you were, I think it was like 5th grade and up, you could play all 18. But then like I was allowed to play 9 holes. And I remember that first round, looking back, waking up for golf was like the only thing you get me out of bed for,
sure.
So it's like 6 a.m. I'm like, I'm ready. Let's get up there.
Easiest way to wake up in the mornings.
Oh my
Got
God.
morning teacher.
Still feel that
Atlanta
way.
Junior
Yeah.
Golf events in the summer. Like I'm up at 5:30, like cleaning my clubs. My mom always used to laugh about that. So I go out and play. I had a set of 5 clubs. I don't even remember, maybe US Kids. I don't even remember what brand they were, but I had a driver, a 4-iron, a 7-iron, shitty wedge, and a putter. And I had this like snake eyes putter that was from my mom's set. And I remember I teed off from the forward tees and I hit the best drive. And then I just chunked it, and TC, I'm playing with him and a couple of older kids and he's already like, pick it up, man. Like you're slowing me down. Like, I can't believe mom made me bring you out here. Don't embarrass me in front of my friends, So that was kind of the vibe early on in my golf career. And then we got the golf membership probably 2 years later.
Which is interesting because like your parents don't really play, right?
No, my dad's
Which
not
is,
good.
I've
Never has been.
always thought about that as like an interesting, basically just getting the membership for you guys is
100%.
crazy.
And I remember my dad he used to get so upset. He just doesn't have the patience and focus for it. But he enjoyed going out and watching, playing with us and seeing us get better. And then, so we got that golf membership. And then again, I just kind of followed TC. Like he ended up getting good and into it. And so he starts doing Atlanta Junior Golf. So I'm like, oh, I should do that. That was a great experience. You have to take the rules seminar. So you learn the game like the right way. You learn to play competitively. We went to George Kellenhofer for like 3 or 4 lessons. That was David Duval's coach. And he was up off of 85 northeast of the city at this double-decker driving range. And he used to pump these like VHS tapes into the machine. And he would draw the yellow lines, on Duval's swing. And so that's kind of the foundation that I learned. It was like swinging it like Duval, like getting that shoulder, getting that full turn. By this point, I was playing my mom's.
That blows my mind.
clubs.
I would not classify your swing as looking like David Duval.
Well, TC on the other hand, with whipping his head out of there, makes total sense.
But I had a really good move as I'd say 5th, 6th grader of like, I hit a draw. I didn't play a driver for years. I played a 3-wood off the tee and I would just hit this like lazy draw. And I had a big length, like long swing. I went like over parallel. I think I've just lost flexibility with, working out for football and stuff. So my swing has definitely changed a ton since then.
All right. I got a question for you on this topic. How do you take this in any direction you like? How do you feel about being a country club kid? Because I did not grow up at a country club. I have a kid now. I belong to a country club. I've always thought about this, and I'm curious as a what are you, 35, 36? How do you reckon with this?
I'm not ashamed of it at all. Dunwoody Country Club it's now like a city club, like because Atlanta's grown so much, it's now a very, very sought after membership, which is funny because back when my parents first moved to Atlanta in like 1988, it was like kind of the sticks and they were like begging for people to join. The course you know what it was? It was convenience. We literally lived behind the 7th green, like 1 street over. So I would ride my GoPed up there. And so for my mom, it was like great. Like I'd be gone in the summer, like probably 4th, 5th, 6th grade. I'd go up there all day with Pat Steelman, who was my neighbor, good friend of mine. And now he's a member there, so he's stuck around. He lives down the street, but we used to, we'd play golf first thing, in that junior time. And then we'd go to the pool and then we'd come back and hit balls. Maybe we could sneak out for another 9 holes, if the tee sheet was empty. It's sweet, man. Like, does it suck that country clubs are expensive and exclusive? I think that's honestly more of a modern thing in some ways, or like the last 10, 15, 20 years, because they're not building any more of them. The only courses getting built are resort courses or like, billionaire. And I want to just have 100 members, which is, that's fine. There was still land in these suburbs to build golf courses. And Dunwoody was one, I think a rare one in Atlanta that was not built as part of a planned subdivision. It was kind of like, it's a self-contained course. There's some houses on the outside, but it's kind of like, it's a nice place. So looking back, I'm like, man, what a sweet setup. But it wasn't like my dad did, TC and I's dad did well, but he was not like chasing a status thing. He was like, oh no, my kids want to play golf. Like
something to do in the summer. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and it was so close that it made sense, I think.
And that's what's funny about just thinking about my own childhood is like I grew up at a very much in the sticks, very small town that just happened to have this like really nice golf course at it, but nobody ever came and played it. So it was essentially empty. I lived across the street as well, and as you're describing that, I'm like, oh, that's like, yeah, that's what my setup was too. Like you could just ride your bike down the street, nobody was there. You kind of have your run of the place, and so
And that's just part of like the golf scene in Atlanta. The public scene is a disgrace.
yeah,
And so, did I play a lot? I played a lot of Chastain with friends as I got into high school just for fun. And it was like, oh, well, this isn't as good of a setup. I should just go to Dunwoody. Like my parents, once they got the golf membership, they've kept it. Now my mom plays a lot. And so they've been members there for longer than I've been alive, which is
yeah,
crazy. But they didn't get the golf membership until 2000. So, and now they've redone that course. I mean, the club now is like it's like a big number to join, all that stuff. And so I think it's like anything in life, it's timing. It's like if you bought land in Monterey in 1940.
right.
Yeah, would it make
wasn't that expensive
sense
back then?
Would it make sense as a move now? Probably not, but at the time you're kind of
No.
grandfathered in. It's very different.
And listen, I would love to join a golf club. Like right now, I'd love to have a club, but what matters to me is I need to be within 10, 15 minutes of it, or else
Yeah.
I'm just not going to use it. And it would be, and the number around here in the tri-state area, it ain't happening until it's like, yo, I'm going to be here like 4 times a week,
Yeah.
So
we don't have any ads on this podcast on this episode. Like how are we going to possibly be joining
100%.
a club? At
No,
16?
because I've had a few people be like, hey, maybe you should think about doing the junior membership here. And you're like, dude, that's like that's a big number. What if I move to the other side of town? What if I move to New Jersey? Can I be a national member? Nah, it doesn't work like that. All right, well then I would I like to join? Yeah, but it just doesn't make any sense.
Do I get my money
So,
back if I leave? No, definitely not.
Absolutely not.
Oh, okay.
so yeah, and I don't, and I
How
am
much
not.
per round of golf?
The other thing with clubs is like I'm much more into. I don't really care that much about like who designed the course. It's like, yo, is it in good shape? Are there 18 holes? Does it have a grass driving range? Like, I'd probably be pretty happy anywhere, even if that was a public course. If it came down to like, yo, there's a public course 10 minutes away that you could get like a monthly deal for, or there's a club 20 minutes away, I'd probably just be like, yo, I'm going to go to the public course.
Yeah,
like, I do not care.
If you can get the tee time, that's the thing.
That's
Yeah, exactly. Can I get a tee time? That's really the thing that matters.
That's what the hardest thing I find today. I just growing up, being an adult, especially inserting kids into the equation, like there's just not the flexibility to get out and play. Like you pay for the convenience of like, dude, if I can decide this afternoon I can go play, it is too late for me to get tee time at Jack's Beach. But if I have a club that I can go play at, like that's what you're buying out of.
I mean, so there's the crappiest driving range in the Northeast, Mount Freedom driving range out by my in-laws. So it's north, like Mendham. I guess the town is Mount Freedom, but Mendham kind of up in that like west of the city. It is like a cow field, but like the guy lets you hit off grass. And so I'll go out there and I get so much joy out of just banging balls off of grass. I don't like hitting off of mats. And you can buy like a bucket of like 200 balls for $20 and just spend 2 hours just like, yo, that's all I need. I don't need a whole lot more than that. Like, would I like it to be a little nicer? Sure. But I don't need it to be, and I don't need to wear, and no offense to anyone, but I really don't need to wear a club's logo on my belt or my shirt, when I fly, to be like, yo, really? Is that how, are you balling like that? It's like, no, man, I don't need that shit.
God, the airport is such a specific, great.
Well, you see it all the time. I mean, I'm so
You
attuned to it.
You got the
because-
carrying little leather
Yeah.
duffel bag from the member guest. You've got the ask me about my club, basically.
I was
Yeah.
just gonna say.
Oh, for me coming into Newark, ooh, Balti, huh? Go ahead, ask me about
cool.
it.
Very cool.
So Baltus Crawl's catching a stray there, but
Oh.
I won't detonate anybody else.
It's a good logo, at least.
I don't know if you think about golf this way, or if you kind of post up like a pyramid of things you want to accomplish and what the top thing on there would be. But if I was to say, like, what do you want to achieve? What's a goal that would make you like the happiest to achieve in golf? Where's your mind go?
This is a prescient question or a good one because it's been on my mind a lot more the last year than it has the previous 5. I think if you asked me last year or 2 years ago, I'd be like, I want to break par, but that's such a short term like thing. And the older I get, the more value I place on consistency. I would like to be a plus handicap. I think that would be a really, not the final mountaintop, but a really good mountaintop for me I'd be like, all right, that would be kind of like, all right, we did it, because that's always felt so far away. And then all of a sudden, you're at kind of a 1.8. You're like, man, that's, now I'm going to have to break par more often. But I think I need to stop saying like I want to break par. It's like, no, I want to break par like more often. It should be I like on my goals list was like, let's break par 3 times this year instead of placing all this pressure on one time. It's almost like flip the script a little bit. And then I think the other one now is like I would love to like long term win an MGA event or the NIT. Those are the kind of the two things like, or if I moved like whatever my local golf association is, I don't need it to be a USGA event. Like maybe qualifying for something nationally would be cool long term. But these MGA events have been really fun, and they give you a built-in like set of goals because you get out there and you start to look around. You're like, man, I'm hitting it just as good as this guy. Yeah, he beat me by 3 strokes today, or 6 if we're talking about my guy Harrell Deej. But
Of
it's
course.
like, man, I'm blowing it by him. Can I just control my golf ball a little bit?
The
Can I make this
fucking
easier on
green,
myself?
please.
That's what I know. I talk about tournament golf a lot, but like you getting like a taste of it is
It's
so
great.
it's kind of everything. Like you don't need to play a lot of it just to have that as like you have to have some kind of golf that counts for real, like for real. And for a lot of
Yes.
people, like it's pretty easy to like my for real golf is my Saturday morning game, and it just becomes you do it so often. There's no pressure on it, and it's really fun. But like it's a different thing to go sign the card, play with strangers, like play with different styles of players and play under tournament rules. And then like taking that back to normal golf is what makes it's just it's almost like a baptism of some kind of you kind of can't go once you've like learned that and done that, the rest of golf is going to be different for you forever as well.
Especially on, I got a little bit of that, like member guests are great. And it's always fun to be like kind of in the running for like I had a good run with this guy, Jim Glenn at the Rockaway Hunting Club member guest, got down to the final group ever, in that like 200 people are watching you come down 18 and,
People are throwing up all over themselves.
yeah,
It's so
basically,
fun. Best.
maybe your partner's shanking a wedge from 80 yards, and then lipping out a par save. It's sick. And so you feel it a little bit there, but I don't think there's a replacement. Solly, you and I are kind of wired the same way. Like I like maybe I'm a weirdo, but I like the personal competition. When it's just you out there and it's like, okay, how good can I get at this? So yeah, I think the thing I love about golf the most, it has been the competitive outlet for me since my other athletic endeavors I've retired from. First football, and then rec league hoops. I had to hang them up in the New York City league. Just we can't be
Part
blown
of the
out
past. Yeah.
in Achilles. It just can't have it. So
So all right.
yeah, golf's the competition. Golf and tennis, and I've gotten back into tennis, but I love to compete. So that's kind of what I'm looking to do.
So what's the path to being a plus? And I'm not going to let you answer make less doubles. No doubles. You always say that you're always, no doubles, no blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I don't think that's the answer. That's not the path. That's the result. That's a result. But what's the actual path to getting to plus?
I think working on my wedge, my approach, like, so I hit the ball far enough where, okay, what number do I have? 80% of the time, if I hit a good drive, I'm going to have under 120, I'm between 60 and let's say 120. And that's really 3 clubs. I'm hitting one of the 58, 54, or the 48 from there. And it's kind of 3, can I get my clock system dialed? I think would be like capitalizing on scoring opportunities. I mean, you would say like, I think I have started to limit the doubles, but the data boys would tell you like, yo, everybody thinks like I need to make more birdies to be
No,
better. It's like, no, you have to like limit the bad holes,
it's
So
right.
I
It
still
just
would say,
it,
but
it
here's the thing. There's another question that Deej kind of lobbed in here into our agenda, which is like, if you could ask a genie for one thing about your golf game, what would it be? And what my answer to that is like, I think the data boys would say, oh, proximity, hit your wedges better, like get better, get inside the 15-foot circle, and give yourself, whatever, 40% chance to make it or 50% chance to make it. I think there's like, if I could ask the genie, it's kind of a mental thing for me. I have never been comfortable since junior golf making birdies. They are always a big deal for me. And Solly, when I play with you,
That's
I
so
always notice
so
how you
relatable.
can go on a heater.
Yeah.
Like if you're feeling it, like you are like from 10, 12 feet, it's like, God, that putt's going in. That's another birdie putt. And I almost am the opposite. Like we were playing last week at Timuquana and I made a birdie on the first par 5. We come into the second par 5, played it great.
Did.
I got a 4.5 footer and I'm over that ball. I'm just like,
Birdie.
I
It's a
have
birdie.
bad
It's a
things
birdie.
going.
It's a birdie.
There are bad things going on. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is a bird. Oh, you're about to make 2. Your par 5 scoring average is off to a great start. And then I just fucking miss it, and it's like, what are you doing, dude? Like, and so I don't really know what like the fix is for that a little bit, other than just like, yeah, put yourself in that position more often. But I have a lot of rounds where I feel like, man, I'm getting a lot of 5 to 10 foot birdie putts, and the more I get, it almost like builds this pressure of like, oh, another one. Like, and there's like this weird voice in my head of like, oh man, you're bound to miss one of these. The odds would tell you that not all of these are going to go in. And whereas with par putts, I think it's a completely different thing. I'm a little freed up. It's like, oh yeah, let's try to bury this and save it. It's so I don't know I don't know if I'm explaining that properly, but it's a little bit sorry, like your thoughts on like be comfortable going low, don't be scared. Like, but I get into these, it's just birdies are still like like a little kid, like, oh my God, I have a birdie putt. And it's like, yeah, man, it's not that big of a deal anymore.
Well,
You're
I would say
fucking 1.8 handicap. You should have birdie putts.
the answer to that though is honestly like just better ball striking, like and just giving yourself 2 more birdie putts per round. Not even like great opportunities, and 2 doesn't sound like a lot, but on average over the course of a year, your handicap will fall multiple shots if you're giving yourself 2 more birdie putts per round, right?
So I think I'm on the right track
you are.
because like I'm saying like, yo, if I, in working with John Sherman on the game improvement video, it's like, yo, this is in the off season. I used to think like, oh, I don't want to hit wedges at the simulator. Like it's turf. And he's like, no, that's exactly what you should be doing. You should know exactly how far 60 yards is and 65 and 75. And how can I hit it with, because like, if you feel like you can hit 75 with a 58 and a 54 with different trajectories, like that's going to translate really well. Like you might not hit it exactly on the course, but you're going to get like, he's like, you're going to get so much better because, and then all it depends on is like, hey, you're going to have good days off the tee and you're going to have bad days. Hopefully like it's a little bit more consistent, but I'm the kind of golfer where like some days I am just striping the driver. And it's like, okay, on those days, it's like, yo, don't miss these opportunities with wedges and hit it from 95 yards. You're hitting it to 20 feet. It's like, that's just not good enough.
Yeah. The
It's
data,
more like don't hit it
data,
to 50 feet.
you might
I
send the
think,
data boys after you on that.
Yeah.
One,
Well,
okay,
that's a good point.
Yeah.
But like, don't, I guess, don't make some unforced error with wedge.
That's everything.
Don't hit it in the back bunker.
Yes.
Don't miss the green. Let's put it that way.
That's where I think like some of the most helpful advice I've ever gotten, it was publicly on the podcast with Mark Brody of like, hey, you're a blah, blah, blah handicap. How would you advise them getting better at golf? And he said, practice shots from 150 yards, like wear out on the range from 150 yards. And I went straight to the range and started doing that. And like, it became like, all right, I'm not going to hit it perfect from 150 yards every time. I'm not going to stuff it, but I know what the ball is doing. Like I can hit a 9-iron, and if it's a little help and it's hot, I can maybe hit a wedge there. But I can get the ball from 150 yards. I can hit the middle of the green. Feels like every time. It's not literally every time, but I can do that. From there, going down to wedges is just like, oh, I can do it from 150. If you put me at 120, I absolutely can hit the middle of this green. And leveling up to like, all right, if I got 7-iron here, it's time to be conservative. Like 150 is my number. Like that's my go-to. Like, if I'm hitting the green with 7-iron, I feel great. It's where I feel like if you wore out 150 shots to the point where like you're not, I don't mean literally, you're going to make mistakes, but you're not making mistakes from there. Everything from below that honestly feels pretty simple. And it really, you've gotten so much better at making golf boring. And I think you still have like some uncharted territory in terms of like how simple good golf is. And you can get your hand caught. I don't want to say hand caught in the cookie jar a little bit, other than like losing focus sometimes from 100 yards and making a fatal error is kind of where I would say a gap between you and some of the tournament guys that I see play. I'm not even saying myself, but like those dudes just don't make the same frequency of errors.
Well, I see it a lot like basketball. And when I was very good in like middle school at basketball, and it comes from practice. Like the minute I used to shoot so many 3-pointers that they became like top of the key. I'm going to make that shit. Like I
Yes,
am
exactly.
expecting this to go in,
Yeah.
even though it's like, yeah, you're shooting 30%. It's like, oh, open three from certain
Count it.
spots. That is fucking going in. You know what I mean? I don't know if I have that feeling with wedges, and I want that feeling
Yeah,
with
that's
wedges.
very
That's
well
kind of
said.
what I'm trying to maybe explain here.
Yep.
It's almost like I've had that feeling in another sport, and I want to have it here.
But so
I
can
will
I
second John's thing on the simulator wedges. The best I've ever hit my wedges was a couple years ago, and just all I would do is it was when I moved up here and I had nothing to do in the winter, and so I was just go hit wedges, and it would be like, let's try to hit 78. Okay, that was 81. All right, let's try it again. All right, that was 76. Okay, all right, let's try to hit 105. You know, and you're just like, by
And
the
some of
time I
it's
got
just
to that
mechanical. It's like,
spring,
yo, I'm gonna choke up on this one and I'm gonna take the 10 o'clock swing.
I
Like the clock
yeah,
system thing works for me. Of
totally.
like, let's keep it super simple and almost like militant. And
But
like,
it's
cause I don't need like I'll put the ball back in my stance to make better contact. Like I'm no longer, I think for a little bit with golf, I was addicted, not addicted, but I had this habit of like I want to hit the perfect shot.
Yeah.
And now I've definitely graduated to like, dude, just like
hit the green? Hit the
yeah,
green.
put it back. If you're not
Hit the
hitting it, if
green.
you're not striking it well, like just move it back an inch in your stance and just like let's get solid contact and you kind of know what that ball's gonna do.
yeah.
So I feel like you would benefit kind of almost the same no pin challenge that we did with DJ several years ago of like, if
Yeah.
you set out, Ben and I I've messed around with this. I don't know if I've ever said it on the pod, but like created this little internal scoring system of just giving every full shot a 0 or 1 grade. So basically it's kind of like, would you want a mulligan on that one or not? And like, if you hit a driver in the fairway, it's on, I mean, unless it hit a tree and popped out, whatever, like that's a 1. Like if you
It's an
drive the
auto
ball in the
one.
fairway, that's a 1. And if you hit it on the green, that's a 1. And like, I'll give myself extra credit. If you hit one to 2 feet, I'll count it as 2 points. But just
Sure.
you play golf that way, just like count how many good shots you hit. Like 20 is like a decent day. When you get in the upper 20s, it's like, dude, that's like that removes like putting is volatile and is gonna vary like from every single player in the world. Like it's just kind of hard to be an amazing putter every day. You're gonna have days where you hit it okay and putt great, and your numbers are gonna look great, but there's no way to getting better without tangibly hitting the ball better consistently. And
Which I'm totally bought in on.
I
I just think sometimes when I bring up like the putting mindset thing, there's just a little bit, it's almost like this monster under the bed on birdie putts that maybe I'm just like it's that basketball feeling I was just talking about. It's like, oh God, I got a little bit of a, mental hurdle to cross there. But you're right. It's like, yo, just get more
that's
opportunities.
it. That's
Yeah.
that's
Like
literally the
during the
thing. Because when
round,
you're only
and that
getting
becomes
8,
less of an issue.
yeah, if you're getting 8 birdie putts and only 3 of them are really good looks, you're gonna feel the pressure over those 3.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're getting 12, 13 technical putts, like by the math, you're probably gonna get 4 to 6 that are really good looks, and like you might make 3 of them, and that all of a sudden you're like, man, I made 3 birdies today. Like that was a pretty solid little round. Whereas like again, it took some tournament play to realize like these guys who just keep hitting good shots, they don't make every putt. They absolutely do not make
No,
every putt,
don't.
but they're hitting better shots than I do. And you tally up their birdies at the end of the day, it's like, oh shit. I mean, that guy gave himself like 14 decent looks.
Yeah,
And I
and
know
he had a couple
yeah,
par fives where he two putted for birdie.
Yeah.
It's like yeah. So that's where the par five scoring comes in too.
yeah,
It's
I
like, oh,
love it.
make it easy on yourself, brother.
Have you gone back and read any more of Pia and Lynn's books?
No, I haven't.
I would
Which that stuff always resonated with me, so I
I'm
probably
almost
should.
finished after our round at Timuquana the other day where I freaked out and shot 94 and was just playing golf swing and just lost in my I felt like I had like locked in syndrome, I just like
Yeah.
couldn't I was just trapped in my own head. I couldn't actually like, externalize anything. I was like, God, I need to do something. We can't ever do that again. And went back and read Every Shot Must Have a Purpose. It's so good. I think it feels like it should be like a once a year
Yeah.
type of read. So it seems like they have the same scoring system type of game in there. A lot of like daily, like what's your playing purpose? Like over every shot, Neil, like I know you're big on this, but they get very specific about walking into the play box, as in on every shot is like you set an intention for the day. So it might be I'm going to visualize every shot before I hit it. And or something like that. And it's just like a constant check back in to where it's like, it's not like, oh, the open swing on a par 5 where there's no trouble and I can swing as hard as I can. And oh shit, I have a 6-footer for birdie. Like you treat those exactly the same way. And not a master at it by any means, but
Yeah.
it's a good
I
thread
mean,
to
their
start
stuff's
pulling
always
on.
made sense. It's just it's so reliant on consistency.
Yeah.
that it's so easy to be like, well, I'm already out of the play box,
And what's hard too is like you also
Like it's like sometimes their stuff is like mentally exhausting.
well,
You really got to train it.
yes, for sure. I've talked to Tron about this a lot too, and like this is a separate conversation probably, but you also don't want to turn golf into like a boring math equation
Right.
either, right? Like it is supposed to be like an artistic, fun, like can I hit the shot or not type of like, exhilaration as well. So it is there's a constant battle in that, which I actually, is part of like what makes golf great. But you can if you truly you got to decide what you care more about. Is it like I want to have fun on the golf course and have highs and lows and peaks and valleys and whatever, or I really fucking care about this number that's in this app and I really want to get it down. And both of them are totally valid. And I can't commit to either one of those. And I think I have just been stuck in the middle for years now.
I've gotten a lot out of like John Sherman's Four Foundations of Golf.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more practical, I think, for like a everyday golfer. I mean, P and Lin stuff is like kind of the benchmark for me, but something I've taken away from him is, and I think I did a really good job of this last year, is like not giving up on rounds,
Yeah.
which I think would help. Like I think is a big reason why my handicap fell, is because in years past it's like, well, yep, there's a double, and I'm
Yeah, cool.
fuck
Cool
this,
deal.
like
Cool
get me
deal.
off the ride. I want to go home. And instead, it's like, no, like you start to create a game within the game,
I think that's
and
Solly's scoring system he was talking about.
yeah,
It's like, well, I
and
can still get to 15. I can still get to
and
18.
then that keeps your mindset better, and it's like stop looking at everything as this like 18 hole
Yeah.
painting, and
Yeah.
try to break it up into smaller chunks.
Where I was going with all that stuff is where this is like for me personally, saying like if I go over to Marsh Landing here, first hole, I can like you can kind of see all the trouble on that pretty easily and things can go wrong really quickly. But if I'm in a good mental spot and like my mindset is I need the ball on the green in regulation, all of a sudden my eyes go towards where I want to hit the ball and what's my all right, I can hit it on from 140, 130, 120, 110, 100, and I can hit it from any of those spots. But if I don't have that kind of focus, I'd be like, all right, let's rip driver over there and try to give myself 70 yards in. And
Yeah.
that brings in a whole other like group of equations. And it just takes like, that's the kind of shit that I find fascinating is it takes like what you're just saying, it takes so much mental discipline to have that every time. And it just doesn't, even though I feel like I have the answers to a lot of these questions and I cannot put them into
Well,
practice.
even
And I feel like
tournament rounds,
yeah.
like so playing at the pub links, and I'm basing a lot, whether this is good or bad, a lot of times I'm basing what club I'm hitting off of what the guy in my group's hitting. Like, all right, I'm, as the round gets going, you're playing 36 holes with
Yeah.
the same guys. Like I hit it about 20 yards past these old guys. Great. 25. So it's like, all right, if they're hitting 3-wood, I better, now I got to pay attention, and even when they're hitting driver, and then you pull up the Gin app and you can see like here, I can hit it here. They kind of have the map so you can like take a look. And it's like, okay, like sometimes, guess what my point is? Sometimes I don't believe it. I'm like, so I could hit 4-iron and have 140 in, and then you look up, you're like, that's not true. I should hit 3-wood. Like I know that's so stupid to say out loud, but it's like, I mean, I don't know. I don't think 4-iron's going to go that far. Like that does that. Are we playing the right? And then you start looking like, did they move the tees up? Am I? And so I think sometimes like trusting the discipline of like, no, just hit fucking 4-iron, dude. Like you don't need to like try to thread something here in a competitive round. It's like, and John Sherman was saying to me in our video, like spend the night before and just write down, like go through that map and just say like, okay, number 2, the play is to hit 4, like make the decision. The decision's already made when you start the round. Like, so a little bit of prep. He was like, a little bit of prep for competitive golf goes a long, long way because it almost takes pressure off. You're gonna have to make a bunch of other decisions, like what to hit out of the trees when you miss the fairway. He's like, so like the decisions you can make ahead of time can make a massive difference. So that also resonated with me.
What would you say? I mean, of course, you broke par. You stole the thunder at my wedding. All anybody talks about for my wedding is that you broke par the day before. I don't know if this would be that round, but what is the most complete round of golf you think you've ever played?
That was certainly not the most complete round. I started off with a double, like first hole.
The rental set too, was it?
Most complete round of golf, and it's hard. It wasn't really a round, but I played 36 holes of what I would call flawless golf at the Roost Club Championship at Sweetens Cove this year. So it's 9-hole course. So I lapped it 4 times from different tees. So it was kind of, different pins, different tees. But I've played that course probably 100 times now, and it's a really happy place for me. But you can still get yourself in trouble. Like that place goads you into doing stupid stuff. And I shot 1 under over 36 holes, and I did not make a double bogey. And it was just like, talk about boring golf. I took advantage of like number 3. I made hay there. I didn't get myself into trouble on number 6. I played number 7 really smart. So it's just, I think that recently that's been the most complete round of golf I can think of because of the 36 holes.
Sure.
I've never done that over that amount of golf to be like, man, I am just kind of cruising right now. Like this feels like autopilot. And I think one of those 9 holes was like 2 over and one of them was 3 under. You know what I mean? So it wasn't perfect golf, but there were no doubles in there, no train wrecks, pretty sensible stuff.
Man, I can't get out of here without giving you a couple analogies. I know you're a big analogy guy.
Yeah.
We've thrown this one out in the past, and I'm just curious if the answer has changed. If your golf game was a car, what kind of car would it be?
Well, I have to go back to football. In football, I always said I was the Crown Vic, the victimizer, the police cruiser. It wasn't pretty, but it was sneaky fast, durable as fuck, pretty easy to fix. I didn't get too banged up. Stay in the fight, and then just kind of always cruising around, like just looking for the ball, like looking for trouble as a free safety. Like, hey, what are you guys doing over here? You guys loitering over here? Huh? Just kind of maybe pulling in for backup, getting the call over the radio. So like I was never the flashiest football player, but I definitely I used the brush guard well. I had all the supplies in the trunk if
Just
you need
it,
them.
it accessorizes well.
Yes, exactly. And then, somewhat intimidating. I was pretty big safety. So I was like, oh, okay, that guy's like, he's not like undersized back there. Like, okay, he might be able to come downhill. In golf, I was thinking about this morning, and I'm going to give a shout out to BMW. I think X5. I think it's solid all around.
Yeah.
Good brand, like the swing looks good. Like everyone's like, oh, that's, like a good swing. Oh man, that guy Neil's got a good swing. I think it looks good on the tee. The checkbook doesn't always balance, but like, I can make an 81 look good and be like, ah, dang, you could like a lot of times you could be so much better. But
you got the
also nothing.
You got the M package too, I think.
Well,
And
that's
you
what I
know,
was going to say. It's
yeah.
also nothing special. Like you see a million. I think X5 is like the best selling SUV in America right now. And
you
so
move
see
product. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, like there's a million 2 handicaps, right? It's not that special, but I think the key is, can I put the M package under the hood? Can we get the black on black rims? Can we get the heated seats and the massager in there? I don't know. We got to find out. But the chassis, everything's built for it to be like accessorized and like souped up. Like this frame can fit it. It's going to cost you.
The other
You got to
thing
work on
I
it.
would add to that too, Neil, is, and this is true of any kind of foreign car. If that computer goes, if it's gonna be a headache trying to get
More
that
so the
thing.
windshield
Yeah.
with the heads-up display.
Yeah,
Like you can't call Safelite for that bad boy. We gotta get that thing custom.
something goes. We might be looking for specialty parts,
Yeah.
to get this thing
Well, yeah,
dialed back
I
in.
think we just put racing tires on it, this past year, and that's when you have a tough time. Like, yo, we don't have those here at the shop. Why not?
Also, sometimes you got the wrong tires on for the conditions.
Yes.
You got the racing tires on. It's snowing outside. You're slipping all over the road.
Yeah, I
Hit a
still
fucking 4-iron, man. What are you doing? Why are you trying?
I've I know, and you can't haul, it doesn't have like the tail, like I can't hook a trailer up to it, So it's like, I still struggle in the wind. I'm not the greatest wind. I've gotten a lot better since Ireland, but still heavy wind conditions. And that's when I'm going to start trying to manipulate the golf ball a little bit too much. And that can get ugly for me.
Sure.
What's your go-to swing thought? Is it still fucking tempo?
No, it's not. It probably should be. No, I worked with Nest member down at Vero Beach. Well, the only lesson I've had, other than maybe some tips I've picked up from TPI and stuff, is from Andy Nelson down in Vero Beach.
PGA all the way.
Yeah. And he, I had this feeling for a long time. It was like, I need to get to my front foot. I need to get through the ball. And he kind of showed me, and working with him for a couple hours, like, no, actually, man, like you're the way you swing it, you're going to get there. Like there's just the physics say that like that is not the issue, and that's why you're sliding your hips. And so the feeling and the thing that stuck with me from him was like they call it a downswing for a reason. So like when I feel like my elbow and the butt of the club and everything is dropping straight down, and it's almost like the force and the weight is going through the inside of my right heel. If I can get to that, like that spot where it's like everything, it's almost like if I was driving a stake into the ground with all of my energy, when I feel it going through the inside of my left heel, it usually means like rarely do I get that feeling and there's like a horrible result. And then I think the follow on feeling to that is, did my right shoulder come under my chin? Which I think is, sometimes not like TC, I'll peak, but like that's telling me that my head is still and I'm truly rotating around. Like, I remember going to Georgia Tech golf camp, and an early swing concept was the coach. I think it was Steve Jones, who was the coach at Georgia State, I believe. There are all these like college coaches there. He's like, imagine I'm spinning a whistle. How can I spin a whistle faster if I move my arm, like my whole arm, or if I just move my finger? And it was like, obviously, if you just like keep your finger tight and you get a lot more torque on it. And he was like, picture the finger as your head. The more your head's bouncing up and down, like it's going to be more inefficient. Now, like you look at some pros and the way they clear and the head goes down, like I know there's probably I'm not a swing expert, but that was a simple concept that stuck with me of like, can I rotate my torso and my shoulders under a pretty stationary like head? That has been a feel that I've tried to keep for a long time. So I don't know if those are good feels, but those are the ones that I've kind of stuck with.
That one reminds me of the Sergio one. I think it was Sergio, that like the only swing thought is when you get to the top, you feel like you're grabbing a chain and you were just trying to pull it straight down into the ground.
Yeah, like if my elbow feels like it's tight into my body, like because I'm always trying to keep the club inside, I'm fighting the over the top stuff, and now we've learned a lot of that's just based on my setup and my spine angle at address. So that's this feeling has. Combining that feeling with a new address posture has led to the left miss. It's not so much intentional. It's just like, oh man, I am now feeling what it's like to hit the ball inside out. God, guys, those Hovland quotes.
So good.
Oh my God. Like I thought like truly those could be my quotes of like, yo, I didn't, I've historically cut the ball. I wanted to feel what it was like to not cut it so much. Guess what? That led to me hitting it left. I don't really want to hit it left, but like, oops, like that's kind of where I'm at, is like, all right, cool. Now we know what that's like, but like, I don't want to stay there.
You don't know where the edge is unless you find it,
Yeah. So does that swing feel have to change a little bit with the new posture? I don't know about that. I think I just need to I just need to practice, and I need to groove something. So I do know this from the TPI video, like first and foremost is like, you got to stay healthy.
Yeah.
And if I don't if I don't stick with this like neutral spine stuff, then like I'm going to blow my back out. And so like we have to make this change, whether you like it or not.
All right. I got a couple of golf course related games. Before we do, super quick. Who's your favorite golfer of all time? Who's your least favorite golfer of all time?
I think this is the question I struggled with. I just,
You look up to yourself.
I've been thinking about it a lot.
Don't look up to anybody else.
No, I just don't feel a strong pull to a lot of golfers. I never really have. I'd always root for Tiger growing up, but I never felt like a deep passion for him, like the way that Randy felt for Mickelson. I'll bring up Duval. I think as a middle schooler, because I was being coached on his swing, I was always pretty interested in like him in his golf game. I remember when he shot 59 at the Amex and won the British Open. Or the Open Championship, excuse me. So that was more just because of like, I felt like I had a connection to him through his coach. The last 10 years, it's tough, man. I mean, I find, lucky for us, we have some personal relationships with players like Max. It's like guys that you like as a person. I find that I'm drawn to Rory because he's vulnerable and I think he's authentic. I think, God, he's had a weird 3 years, but I'm always going to be a Rory fan. From a golf standpoint, I find his game kind of relatable as well. Just like the boneheaded wedges he hits and stuff. I think Spieth, same reason. He feels very genuine, and just my personal interactions with him, he's a hard guy for me to root against. I like Jason Day. Actually, back in like when NLU started, I was a really big fan. I think his backstory was like easy to root for. Poor kid from Australia. His caddy was his coach and kind of like his father figure. And then but then he started getting hurt. It just felt like he reached the mountaintop and got disinterested, and it was pretty easy to be like, oh well, that's kind of lame. Like,
This is the most
so
TC answer ever to who's your favorite
Just, hey,
golfer.
just
I've ever-
well,
going,
no, I'm just
going
trying to
down
give
the
you like I was
leaderboard.
trying to think through it, like, and then looking ahead, it's like Ludwig again, some personal relationship there, just nicest dude in the world, and like crazy talented. Like I'd love to see him do awesome stuff. Gordon Sargent, spent a little bit of time with him twice, and really like him. Fun to watch him hit the golf ball. So I hope he does well. But like I don't have like oh my god, I am just
That's my guy.
so.
Yeah.
That's my guy. Is like I guess Rory would be that guy.
Sounds
I was
like
gonna
I
say,
think
who
you
if you had
want
to
him
pick
to win
one
the
guy, one person to win the Masters, if you got to choose, who
It would be
be?
Rory.
It would be Rory.
That's a better question. Yeah.
It would be Rory, but it's a
Over
little
Max?
bit like, is that just because?
Wow.
Yeah, I think so.
Wow.
But that might be a
Shots fired.
storyline question. Like, I just think that would be so fun to watch. Like him accomplish this, like him kill Moby Dick, basically.
Didn't end well for Captain Ahab either. But
No, it didn't. It might not end well for Rory either.
spoiler alert. All right, what about least favorite? Was that easier?
I mean, not so much. I don't have a deep hate for a lot of guys. I'd say I'm going to give you a similar answer. I'd say Sergio. I never liked Sergio at first. Valhalla, I can't see. You see that? I hit it out of the tree and I couldn't see. It's
Medina.
like,
Medina. Yeah.
Medina, whatever. Like and then him just being propped up as like Tiger's,
Nemesis.
competitor. I was like, no, this guy's not that good. Like, and then like everybody, it's like, okay, you get beat down enough and you fail to win a major for long enough. So then when he won the Masters, I was like, I found myself like, oh, I boomeranged. I'm
Yeah.
rooting for him.
Totally.
And then, he's kind of a turd. Doesn't seem like he treats people very well. So not a huge fan. And that's less to do with the live stuff and more to do with like just the stuff he used to say, like rules officials. And even I saw it personally at the Players in 2021. Carson and I were out there. He hit it left on 16 into the crowd. And a guy was there with his kid that was like 3 or 4 year old kid. They had like perfect spot, like right behind him to hit it out of the crowd. Like the ultimate golf fan experience. Like, well, the best thing about a golf tournament is you could just like, they hit it into the crowd and you can just stand there and watch them try to hit it out of the pine straw. Sergio gets up there and the kid's like talking a little loud to his dad. Like, oh my God, dad, like and he literally turns around. He's like, basically get this kid out of here, like move him back. And I was like, what? And then he kind of realized like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. He's like, well, just make sure he's quiet. It was just like, dude, like that's the kind of stuff you're just like double middle fingers, man. Like
It kind of seems like his default setting is just aggrieved.
yes. And I just hated that specific interaction. Was like, all right, I was right, 15 years ago. This guy stinks. I mean, Patrick Reed is on the list a little bit. Honestly, Brooks Koepka, no doubt, like I got a lot of respect for his game, killer instinct, but his personality's never jived for me. Easy guy for me to root against.
Sure.
The ping-ponging between, do you know how fucking easy this is for me? And like, you guys are so stupid, to the like, I'm fucking hurt, dog. Don't ask me if I'm all right. I put my heart into this, man. And then it's just like, yeah, just take all of that away. I'm out.
God, that's good stuff. All right, Soly, let's do so this is, every time we go on a golf trip, every time we're playing a bunch of different golf courses, I think we always kind of come back to this 10-round split game. How would you split up 10 rounds between these two courses? I don't really have anything prepared, so Soly, you and I are we're just gonna ping pong a little bit.
I'll start with
you
it.
throw out one.
Well, I'll do a 2-1 first because this is an interesting one.
Sure.
Bandon Dunes and Pacific Dunes. How you split in 10 rounds?
Oh, that's a great start.
I would probably go 6-4 Pacific Dunes. And the reason is when I'm out there, I feel like Pacific Dunes is the hardest course. And I like, I kind of want the boxing match one more time than the like, and the more you play Bandon, the more I like it. But I just get there's a little bit more of a wow factor for me on Pacific that I think I'd want just one extra round there. But they're pretty even for me.
All right, I'll throw out my two, and we'll just obviously stick in the courses you've played here. But National Golf Links, Pine Valley.
Ooh, I love the Bunker Museum versus the Walk in the Woods. I think because of the challenge, I'd probably go 7-3 Pine Valley. to national. And honestly, the
Love,
vibe.
love getting your
It's
brains beat in.
well, I think that over time, maybe this. I've only played national. I played national twice, back like 36 holes, and I played really, really well. I made 6 birdies in a row to finish the round, and then
What?
birdied the first hole on the second round. Yeah,
You made
6.
6 birdies in a row in a round?
Yes, I birdied the last 5 holes of my first 18,
Let's go get
and
3
then I
more.
birdied the first hole on the second 18.
What did you shoot with the
I
5
shot
birdies?
75 on the first round, and I shot 79 or 80 on the second round.
How did I
played
never
really
hear
good.
about this? You made 5 birdies in a row?
I did, and that was after I went in the founder's locker room. So, taste it, CB. Taste it.
Never heard this story.
It was during COVID. It was 2020. It's like August of 2020.
This might have been right around that pod when TC said, what was the story? Which of you two is going to break 60 first or have a better chance
No,
of
TC
shooting?
said TC said Neil's ceiling is 5 to 6 shots better than mine, which means Neil would have to shoot a 59. Or Neil's ceiling is
Sick.
59.
Which of course was the famous. Do you think Neil's going to get to 6 under, 7 under? Be like, let's go get 3 more, man.
Let's go get 3 more. Why not? No, and I love nationals. Like it truly like fascinating place, and I just think over time, the more you play a course, I kind of like the challenge of it because I think I would struggle more at Pine Valley, so then I would have the desire to unlock a good round there versus national. I might go not into autopilot, but some of the wow factor might wear off on like the museum, like looking at the same pictures
Yeah.
a bunch. So I think I'd go 7-3. And I also love the thing I love most about Pine Valley is not the challenge and all that. And I played it once and it was early season, so the greens weren't like raging or anything. I just love the walk in the woods, the abandoned trails feel of like, oh my God, I can't see like very few holes in that course are like you seeing another hole. I think like 15, 16, 17, you can kind of take a peek around the corner, but otherwise it felt like, man, this is a whole new environment I just walked into.
Yeah. All right, so you throw out one, I'll throw out one.
Pinehurst number 2.
Ooh. Tobacco Road.
That's a tough one.
Fun.
I would say I've only played Tobacco Road once, but to Pinehurst number 2's credit, I played there 6 times and I never get sick of it. I would go. I think I'll go 7-3 again. Number 2 versus Tobacco Road.
I think that's right.
3 loops around Tobacco Road and just like kind of played Pinehurst number 2 twice, Tobacco Road once. Let's go with that kind of cadence.
I think that's right. All right, TPC Sawgrass.
Dang it, that's what I was going to throw out.
Really?
Then Kiowa, the Ocean Course of Kiowa. Pete Dye massacre.
God, both Pete Dye and Mr. Dye and I don't get along very well. I don't know. One of them's like an algebra test, and one of them has the elements. I feel like, and I like golf by the ocean. I don't know. I'd probably just go 5-5 on these two.
Yeah.
Neither one of them's like, oh my God, I love playing that course. I've only played TPC once, and I really enjoyed it because I let me say this. I'll go 6-4 because I've watched so much golf at TPC Sawgrass that I probably want another crack, like an extra crack at hitting those shots again.
Yeah. I think that's right.
What about Kingston Heath versus Royal Melbourne West?
Man, I really thought Royal Melbourne is super special. But I feel like Kingston Heath kind of grows on you, the challenge of it. I would go 7-3 Royal Melbourne West. I think it's a more enjoyable setting. And you know what, though? That might be unfair to Kingston Heath because of the weather we had. But Kingston Heath is a little bit, you're on edge a little bit.
Yeah.
It's just like sneaky stuff where it's a stressful golf course.
Yeah.
And I mean that as a compliment. I really, really liked it. I just think that there's an air, I don't know, it's a little bit more open and it feels less intimidating at Royal Melbourne West. I actually thought the East Course greens were like scarier than the West.
Yeah. All right, last one. Lufiton Links and Visby.
Oh man, I think I'd go Visby 8-2.
Wow. All right.
Maybe 7-3 just because Lufiton's like such a cool place.
Yeah.
But from a golf standpoint, Visby is it's up there for me.
All right, that one sucked. Soly, you do one more.
No, that was good. I'm ready for his top 10 golf courses.
All right, we're
Oh, God.
final question. This is the one he came on the stream was just
Well, before we do,
threats about this.
I wanted to drop in a house ad.
Sure.
Please.
I'm just gonna shout out the Nest, and specifically, well, one, Nest gifts are going out this week, so get into the refuge into our message board, and you can
Probably already
can
out by
check.
the time this comes out, right?
I think
Yeah.
Casey said we're shipping them today or tomorrow. It's the Jan 16.
This is coming out next week, so yes.
Yeah, so they're probably in the mail. Can't wait to see what the feedback is, good and bad, in that gift thread. But I want to shout out the Roosts. So I had a couple event calls this week, and NLU Roosts ramping back up. Local clubs around the country. I believe we have 35 this year. We got a new one, Lake Effect, Western New York. But each Roost meets up for informal golf and has at least one bigger event, which we call a Roost Major. And these majors have qualifying spots for the NIT, which is our Nest Invitational Tournament, our championship in November. So it's got a, kind of an event series feel to it, but honestly, it's just informal. If you're looking for other avid golfers to play with in your area, check this out. You don't have to be a Nest member to join a Roost. And if you're interested or want to learn more, you can go to nolayingup.com/find-my-roost. So nolayingup.com, find my roost, and add some dash marks in there. For more general event information, events.nolayingup.com. I feel like we'll have like a complete calendar and the event site up to date by probably early February. But I think just shouting out the Roost, because I feel really like I was pumped to hear like some of the plans, a lot of events like already on the calendar, and some of these, especially the places up north, like stuff for March and
I just
April.
got the
you're in the Supper Club.
Supper Club events calendar looks dialed. I can't wait.
I'm going to get more
signed up for
involved
the major. I'm ready for
in
for that at Washington County Golf Course. We've got our the March Mudness is always a good event with the Chicago Roost. We've got the Bourbon is a good spring one. So a lot of muddy golf, a lot of golfers thawing out together, and dusting the clubs off. It's the best, man. I've never had a bad experience at a Roost event. It's a great way to meet people and go play some golf.
Yeah, I'm pumped to get more involved in the NYC, or the kind of the tri-state area Roost. One other thing I'd say, I mean, a lot of with other golf brands, they're planning like 40 events, which is sick, and like they look awesome. But I think if you're, what my goal here is like more consistent, Roost enabled to plan their own events, a little bit more informal, a little less expensive. Just kind of like the goal is like kind of meeting people and being consistent about it. So both like just meeting up if you're looking for a foursome. Some of these Roosts are great. A lot of them have Discords or WhatsApp groups. And so if you're looking like, hey, I got, a tee time, I need 3 guys for X day. If you're into that kind of thing, that's kind of what the Roosts have been great for.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. Main event.
The main event. We put this as the last thing on the agenda. I said, Neil, I want you to list your top 10 favorite golf courses in the world from 10 to 1. Of course, these are golf courses you've played. I'm not asking you to get your arms around, and properly rank all golf courses on the face of the earth. These are the top 10 courses you've played. Favorite instead of best, I think,
Your
is an
list.
important distinction.
No rankings, no
exactly.
public rankings matter. This is your list, and almost judgment free. We may poke fun at some things. If you put Visby in the top 5, I'm going to poke fun of it, but the rest is your list.
Okay, sure. So I have a 10, and I'll go down it. I have an honorable mention list of 16 that I had to really think through. I won't tell you those just yet.
What was this process like for you?
It was hard. It was very hard. I get this question a lot when I play golf. Hey, what's your favorite course? And a lot of times I break it up into like, well, I think you have to say golf on the ocean versus not on the ocean. That's not what we're going to do here.
That's a little bit of our Uber driver. What do you think about life?
Yeah, because like I'm a big setting guy.
It's a big question.
And so I'm trying to I try to think about this in 2 ways. One, complete experience. From start to finish, like, did I feel welcome? Did it live up? Like, expectation matters a lot, things that exceed your expectation. But I think that the only way I can think of this is like, what courses pop into my head immediately? Things that I think about a lot, where it's like, man, I always think about that course.
Yeah.
It's kind of seems to be maybe the tiebreaker or like the best way to do this. And so I'm going to start off with 10, Pasatiempo. This was one of the first like good golf courses I ever played. Back in 2013, I think my friend Paul Connors and I went down there. We took a little road trip down and played. We'd heard like, just kind of starting to learn who Alistair McKenzie is. And just the fact that, I'm always drawn to courses where like the architect kind of, just kind of hung out there and maybe died and his ashes are there. But the setting, it's like near the ocean, but it's not on. I just think it's very unique. And I played there 4 or 5 times, and I always walk away wanting to play more golf. And so that one is just a sneaky, it's just always kind of been there of like, oh, I just really love that place. It just makes me smile when I think about it. I like the semi-private vibe to it. It doesn't feel stuffy. You gotta, you're gonna have to pay for it, but you can go play it, which is nice. Number 9, Saul, you're gonna love this, the Old Course. I love the Old Course, and I love everything about it. I played it 3 times, but I don't know. It doesn't have some of the, I don't know. I know how you feel about the strategy and the onion of it, and so that's why it's in my top 10. But I don't find myself often like thinking about it. Sometimes maybe that's because it does feel a little bit like a museum, and I feel not a factory. That's not fair. I think it's awesome that it's a town square. There's a lot of things I love about it,
No,
but I've
I know what
only,
you mean.
yeah, it just feels I don't know. I feel like I'm dissing it, but it's number 9. Just I'd have to unpack that a little bit. So maybe we could. I'll keep going.
You
But
seem uncomfy with putting it at 9 here. That was not a very confident answer. I think it's higher. You're fighting it. You're fighting it.
I don't know if I am.
Lot of pressure on these next 8 golf courses is what I'm gonna say.
Pinehurst number 2, number 8.
Wow, over the Old Course.
Yeah, I find the Pinehurst. Okay, so maybe some of the Old Courses I don't find it quite as challenging, and that could be because of the 3 times I played it, the weather was pretty docile.
Yeah.
So I've only been
God, he beat
twice.
the shit out of me with those hickories. Remember that?
Yeah, which was like an all-time round, but like with the, I don't know. I just feel
Hey,
like
it's your
it's
list.
more.
I was joking with
I think the Old Course for me is more of an experience and less, as I look at competitive golf, less of a competitive golf test, even though, yeah, they play the freaking Open Championship there. So this is why this was really
It's
hard.
hard.
Pinehurst, I just love it feels like a true test for beginner to the best golfers in the world in the best way. I don't think I've ever lost a ball on Pinehurst number 2,
Yeah.
and I don't think I've shot better than 78. And I just love it. I think it's, I've had absolute car wrecks out there. The feeling you get when you play well out there and you execute shots is kind of second to none. And I love that it is public. It's expensive, but it is publicly accessible. And it's very simple. I like that it's so simple. Like the challenge is very simple and feels like it could be replicated in more places. So I'm going to put that one there. Cypress Point. I just think this one lived up to it for me. Can't think of a more, striking coastline. I mean, obviously people know what Cypress, like the feature holes look like. I think I had high expectations for it. I played it last February. I was blown away by the hospitality. It really felt like guests were welcome there. And it just was a really stress-free experience, which I didn't really expect. I kind of thought it would be a little bit more eggshelly, like some other places in this tier of course. And then just the history with like the Mackenzie, and it's sneaky challenging. It's not long, but you can still, make a mess, especially on the front 9. And then just, executing some of those like famous shots is just really fun. So this one lived up to the hype for me. Number 6, the Creek. The Creek to me is, if I had to pick out a country club that I'd want, like if I had to create a country club in a lab, as far as just like amenities, like the setting goes, I mean, it's got the history. Come on, Gatsby, Gold Coast, East Egg, baby. The strap boy likes to wet his beak a little bit. They have this awesome beach club. It's the old Cravath estate. If you've heard of the law firm, like it's his old summer house that they turned into a country club. Thing I love about golf courses when they have 3 like distinct sections. The Creek is the best embodiment of this. It's like the front yard is like 6 holes. Then you go down the hill and you play into these unbelievable holes on the Long Island Sound. And then you come back up the hill to the clubhouse for the last 6. And I think it's the best Rayner McDonald. Like it has some of the most striking templates I've ever seen, with the Biarritz and the water comes in at high tide and then it's mud when it goes out. I think the other thing on that's dictating this list is I played the Creek 4 times or 5 times, and that really helps this list. It's hard for me to like. Cypress would be the only one on this list that I've only played. I guess there's one other one or 2 other ones that I've played once, but we'll get there.
Where are we at? Number 6? Number 5?
On 6.
Okay.
Number 5, Sylvie's Valley Ranch.
Whoa,
I love it.
sick.
Think about it. I think about it
God,
honestly.
Vegas just, I mean, just hammered the
I
bettors on
can't
that
think of a
one.
more unique place, and this is the whole enchilada, right?
Yeah,
Just the
Totally.
ranch itself and the setting and how far there's no cell service and just the experience of getting there and that part of the country. There's no other reason that I would go there. You know, are there better golf courses? Technically, sure, but I just had so much fun on the 2 trips I've been there playing the course. I love creative stuff like reverse routings. I think I could spend 2 weeks out there playing
yeah.
those 2 golf courses, which is basically the same golf course, and never get bored. The ball's on the ground, it's running like crazy. They're kind of on a shoestring budget and it looks great. And it's very rare you get a course to yourself.
It's
And it's because it's
unbelievable.
so far away. I can't recommend like a better value if you can get out there. I just think it's an awesome, awesome place.
Great
And I'm
couples place
actually
too.
now I'm
Yeah.
second guessing, and maybe it should be higher on my list.
That's
God, that's
I
sick.
respect that one a lot.
Yeah.
That's
Number 4 is Kingsley for a similar reason.
Wow.
I freaking love Mike DeVries. I think it is a souped up version of Sweetens. I think similar, like you kind of have the course to yourself a little bit and so creative. I just think about Kingsley often. An inland place, kind of like, okay, yeah, it's in Michigan, you know, like, and some of this, maybe my expectations were not very high. I didn't know what to expect, and it just blew me away. I thought that course also had some sections to it. And I think it's DeVries. It's my favorite DeVries course. And I like a lot of what he's done. So, and the fact that we got to play with him probably influences this too, of being able to talk to the artist a little bit.
Yeah.
And I've said this before, but you know, played with like Doak at number 10 last year. And I'm a little bit on eggshells of like, if am I going to ask Tom the wrong question? You know, like, oh my God, how could you be so stupid? You know, whereas DeVries is like, hey, what
He's
were
one
you
of the
thinking here?
dudes.
Yo, I can't wait to tell you what I was thinking here. Yo, check this shit out. I was on the dozer, right? And I was thinking like, what if I did this? And I'll make you hit a 7-iron. And it's like, what do you think of that? I'm like, fuck, I love it, Mike. Let's keep talking. Let's go get some fucking beers. That guy's the man, period. Number 3, Visby. Full experience, Soly.
Wow.
Full experience. I
Jesus.
can't think of a place that I would like to take my family more than this golf course. I wouldn't say it's the best golf course on this list, but it's my list. I love the glamping. I love the whole feel of that trip. I think about Visby often and that clubhouse hangout. But honestly, looking at this list, I probably switch Visby and Sylvie's at this point. But let's leave it. This is what I showed up with. I'm putting Visby here. Number 2 is Sweetens. That's home for me. I love it. Love everything about it. I've said a lot about Sweetens. I just love the golf in, golf out is the most interesting concept in golf, I think. And I would love to see it replicated other places. And I think that Sweetens is this high on the list because it's only 9 holes, which some people would say is a detriment to it. I think that strengthens its case for me because I probably played 100 rounds there. I never get sick of going around that golf course. And with the way you can change up the tees and play to different flags, I think it's just, I think about it often. Can't explain it any other way. And number 1 is
We gotta do some predictions. I think you got to guess, Solly. I'm trying to think. He said it's gonna be one he's played multiple times because I think there were 2 more. He said he'd only played once, which I assume is Visby and Kingsley. I'm trying to think.
Well, it would be Visby and Cyprus. We played Kingsley. We played 2 rounds out there.
Oh, that's
I'm
true.
gonna get really triggered if Visby's in the top 5 and Royal Melbourne didn't make the top 10. I am gonna get probably a little triggered on that one.
Sure. I'll just tell you, it's Karn.
Yeah.
And specifically, it's the back 9 and the DJ Kilmore 9. I just think that I'm on the record as saying one of my favorite things about what we do and golf is it is a reason to go to the end of the earth. And, I think Lofoten is this way, but Karn is actually an awesome, not to say Lofoten's not a good golf course, but Karn is like, it is worth the trip from a golf standpoint for me. And I love the dunes of Ireland. Like it just, when I think of that, the Irish tourist sauce is probably, if not my favorite, it's in the top 2. And Karn is like the pinnacle of that for me because of how hard it was to get to. I didn't know what to expect. And I'm almost worried if I went back, I would feel differently. But I think about Karn similar to Sylvie's. I just think about it all the time. I loved it. And the way that the weather changed like 5 different times, I'm wearing I felt like I was like touring on a freaking mountain bike going through that place. It was just awesome. And it was so like freaking rustic. So I just got a lot of respect for like courses that are like just digging it out of the elements. It's just so cool, man, to see what they were able to do with limited budget in the northwest tippy corner of Ireland.
God, what
It's
an
an electric
electric list,
list.
man. I
Seriously.
would have not I would not have scored well if I was trying to predict your list, which is great. That's why you play the games.
And I think you might be right now, Solly. Honestly, of Visby, I probably have it ranked too high. But I just had such a good time there, and I felt like what Visby represents to me was like what we were talking to Norin about, of like it's aspirational.
Yeah.
It's like, man, could I find a place like this if I ever could have a second home? I'd want it to look like that place, and it's not like Nantucket. No offense to Nantucket, or you know, or honestly, even Fishers. Like Fishers was on my honorable mention. You want to hear my honorable mention list?
Yes.
Sure.
I've got Charleston Muni
Very fun.
right
day.
outside the top 10. I've got Fishers Island, Pine Valley, Somerset Hills, Royal Adelaide, Colorado Golf Club, Camargo, Bandon Trails, Lahinch, Peninsula Kingswood, Royal Melbourne, Kingston Heath, Austin Golf Club. Sneaky. Love that place. Sleepy Hollow and Springfield Country Club.
No love for Harding Park. I would have thought your beloved Harding Park would have been up there.
Maybe a miss by me, but it's not in my top 10. That would have been a nostalgia pick.
Yeah.
That was kind of a marriage of convenience.
Sure.
But no shade to Harding. I love that place.
Did I
It's just
hear
not?
like no Lahinch, no Ballybunion, nothing else from Ireland made it?
No, I had Lahinch was in there.
Okay, sorry,
I
you
don't
went
have
quick.
Ballybunion in there.
Okay.
Tough conditties there at Ballybunion.
Honestly, I would probably weirdly, I love Tralee. I think about that
Tralee's
place more than I
sweet.
think about Ballybunion.
God, I
Tralee
want to
was,
go back to Ireland.
Like, I think the front nine's underrated there, and the back nine's so striking. Like that course was so dope. I loved it. I think you know what is not in here is I have Bandon Trails in here, and I want to make this point. There is probably no place I'd rather go tomorrow than Bandon, but it is like greater than the sum of its parts for me. Like to your question earlier, like Bandon Trails, Pack Dunes versus Bandon Dunes. It's like, dude, I don't know if any one course is like
Stands out enough.
Yeah.
stands out, but like, God, do I want to go play all of them like equally? I just want to go to the whole theme park. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not about one course out there for me. It's about like, if I'm going to Bandon, I want to play all of them.
Yeah.
And I want to play them all basically equally. I don't really care. I don't really have a super big favorite. I just can't wait to play any of them when I go.
You've set such a dangerous precedent for whenever TC goes on one of this. You had 16 in your honorable mention.
Did them fast though.
I went down the
TC's
list.
going to
I'm
have
not going through
60 then. Like that's what's going to happen.
I wanted to get another one, Deej. I think about Charleston Muni all the time.
Yeah.
I just thought that place was so creative and interesting, where it's like, kind of a remake of templates, but like I just thought that place was awesome. And then I loved Fishers Island, but honestly, like getting there, I know it's part of the experience, but it kind of sucked getting there. It was tough, man. Would love to go back, but it's just like, dang, getting through that traffic in Connecticut was like kind of bonkers.
Oh, Neil, I feel like you put yourself out there on this list, and I don't know if anybody can ask for anything more than that.
I respect it.
I respect it.
It's a personal list. A lot of it
Totally.
is like, what feeling does it elicit? And I think I mixed in some like aspirational stuff, like the Creek. Like I'm not going to be a member at the Creek, right? But it's not because I'm not going to live out that way. I'm not like, but I just think that place is so sick. As like, if you think about like, man, what a cool place if you could. Talking to our conversation earlier, if that place was 10 minutes away, I'd probably stroke whatever number they're asking for if they wanted me to join.
Any parting thoughts? Should we land this plane?
Well, you had the last question. What gives me the biggest satisfaction in golf? Which I thought was a good question. And I put in two points. One is the feeling of building around, which kind of goes back to that feeling. Like the older I get, the more joy I get out of consistency, and the less joy I get out of like the idea of, I'd love to have another hole in one, but like hitting one shot good or having one good round. I just love so honestly, I think I get so much joy out of not having double bogeys. Like I had 6 of them last year, and I'm dead serious. Like you could ask Randy after we played Liberty. I think I shot 79 or 80, didn't make a double. And I was just like kind of walking on air. It's like, man, how about that shit? You know, like that's it, man. I love it. Like it's just kind of rare for me. And it feels like I know I've used this analogy for the old course, but that game with the marble
Yeah.
that, you know, you didn't get in the holes, like that feeling of like, I avoided all the grenades. Yeah. No train wrecks is, so I guess I hope that I don't get so much satisfaction out of not making doubles in the future. But up until now, that probably is one of the bigger satisfactions.
Call your shot. What's your low round of the year in 2025?
I'm going to shoot 69 this year.
Fuck yeah.
Nice.
That's it. You know, almost, I might scoop a putt if it's for 68. I might scoop it just cause. I'm just kidding. I wouldn't do that. I respect the game too much.
Neil, this has been a thrill, man. Thank you for thinking through the questions, putting together a couple lists. This has been great. I look forward to do this with everybody. I think this is a great idea.
Likewise.
Hell yeah. Thanks for having me on your program.
Anytime. Soly, thanks for joining. And we will catch you guys next time.
Crack
Cheers.
on.